Hello everybody, Andrew Field here. Sorry, I haven't made a video in a little while. There's a couple major developments, so let's get right into the news. Starting with college, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign is requiring all of its students and faculty who take in-person classes to be tested for coronavirus twice a week. I thought that was a good development because I was worried. I was trying to keep track of if I heard about any coronavirus outbreaks because universities seem like the place where it would definitely happen with the outbreaks, even though some schools try to contain it with some steps. It didn't seem like it was going to be enough. University of Illinois was the school I was looking at, and it made me nervous that they at first were recommending testing but not requiring it, but now they require it twice a week, so I think that's a huge difference. They retested their athletes, and 23 tested positive with 3 active cases and then 2 positive staff cases. So even when they're taking more precaution, there's still people that are going to test positive. And with college and K through 12, it's how you deal with those top positive cases to make sure that it doesn't infect the rest of the population. Um, Iowa State University was another one. Its move-in was stretched over 2 weeks. Students had to get tested when arriving. Face coverings are required indoors, so they seem to be doing some steps, but I worry that that may not even be enough. So first off, the University of Connecticut canceled its football season. Then the Mid-American Conference canceled its season in the fall, and then Big Ten. So it went from small to medium to large. The Big Ten is huge football, so canceled college football. Um, do I think college football should be canceled? Yes, that's very easy for me. I know it's a lot harder for people who have been working all their lives to get to where they are. Um, they have 4 years of a chance. The seniors got especially screwed. I know it's hard, for them, and they of course want to play, and that's good. But March Madness was canceled. All sports were postponed in the spring. These people aren't the only ones who are getting halted. March Madness and all that happened where sports were canceled in the spring for college, professional, everybody. So, it's just that this is still going on. Sadly, it's still very prevalent in the United States. The coronavirus, a lot of people have died, over 165,000 I last checked. I think it's like around 167,000, it might be more. So, it's just a step to take it seriously, and I think opening colleges is risky enough that, are in person, but I think sports really shouldn't happen at all, except maybe a couple sports that aren't that much contact related. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Mississippi got bad recently. They wanted to close school buildings until daily infection rate fell below 5%. I think experts in Mississippi were saying. As of, excuse me, as of August 4th, Mississippi's positivity rate was 21.1%. Uh, Positivity rate statewide, which was I think second worst to Florida, and that they may have passed Florida since the last time I checked. But yeah, Mississippi and Florida are like the two worst states right now with coronavirus. I think at least with positivity rate. But the states worst with coronavirus right now are Mississippi, um, Florida, Georgia, Texas, California, um, and there's a lot of deaths coming from Florida, California, Texas, and a couple other states like Georgia. So we still have a huge coronavirus situation, obviously, going on. And everyone who's not living under a rock probably knows that anyway. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves finally ordered a statewide mask mandate, not doing a lot to delay school openings, which is a problem. Morgues were overflowing in Mississippi as of last week. I'm sorry, there was just a lot of news that came out in the past week, so it was hard to keep up with everything, but I think I got most of the main news covered. 17% of ICU beds were available. That was also last week, so it may be that there's a lot less ICU available beds available from that. A Georgia teenager lost both of his parents to COVID-19 in a week. It shows how devastating the tolls coronavirus can have. Also, I saw that Georgia students, which I forgot to put on here, Georgia students were suspended because they took pictures of people walking in hallways in Georgia, like most people without masks, and that's exactly why colleges should be taking such, and K through 12 schools should be taking such high precaution measures. So kids, walking through a hallway, a bunch of kids is a horrible idea, especially if most of the people aren't wearing excuse me, face masks or face coverings. An Alabama high school principal was really creative and made a COVID-19 safety video off of the song "You Can't Touch This." Dr. Burke said Tennessee should have a statewide mask mandate and close bars, limit indoor dining to stop the spread of COVID-19, but the Tennessee governor shot down Burke's recommendation because a lot of governors of states that are doing bad are very stupid, and a lot of them are Republican because they're focusing on reopening the economy, which that's what happened before, but then it caused, them to shut stuff back down and try to fix this all over again. So, there's just some governors who can't admit they're wrong and they're creating a bigger problem than there needs to be. Dr. Burks also are, excuse me, Dr. Burks also urged schools to open only if the case numbers were down enough, below like a certain threshold. Trump attacked Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, which is not helping their credibility, and it's making probably people discredit them for no reason. The Trump administration and CMS required all nursing homes in states with a positivity rate of 5% or greater to test nursing staff each week, which sounds like a really good idea, but there's not enough available testing to go through with that. More than 40% of the virus deaths are linked to nursing homes. Trump said in an interview that it is what it is of rising coronavirus death toll, and he said the outbreak was under control again last week, as the U.S. hit 160,000. Like I said, it's near 170,000 coronavirus casualties in a span of less than a year, like about 6 months. It's crazy. The world death toll topped 700,000. Right now, I think it was at 737,000. So, yeah, death toll is climbing pretty rapidly now. The U.S. passed 5 million cases, which is nowhere near anyone else. I think Brazil definitely has 1, maybe 2 million cases, but no one's really close to us. Arizona and Florida daily case numbers were a lot better, but their death toll is high. Dr. Fauci had to get security protection after his family received death threats and harassment. Facebook and Twitter took down a video of Trump saying children are quote unquote almost immune from COVID-19 because that's a very stupid claim, and a lot of children actually have died. Not like, it's not like a majority or obviously like a minority, but there's still, a good amount of children that have passed away from coronavirus. Just because they're not the main, people to worry about, it's obviously affecting more older people than younger people. Doesn't mean that younger people are all immune. Just means they're more likely to get out of it alive. There's been a surge in positive child cases as schools reopen. Okay, here's another major development. Russia, as of this morning, announced that they may have a possible coronavirus vaccine. If that's true, although that would maybe be great, I'd be a little PO'd that the U.S. didn't get the vaccine out before Russia. But I think it said that they claimed victory, but before the final testing was done. So that's one thing. Another thing is they stole our information, and they called it Sputnik 5 in reference to the Cold War space race. Guess they're still mad about that. But yeah, that pissed me off more that they named it that. Do I hope the coronavirus vaccine fails because it's from Russia? That's a tough question. I would say no. Obviously, the coronavirus vaccine would be good. It sucks that it comes from Russia, but if this vaccine is actually a working vaccine, then hopefully they would distribute it to the rest of the world. It would hurt though if it came from Russia. Um, Trump doubled down against mail-in voting because, of course, he did. The Postal Service said it could handle the influx of ballots. Pelosi said mail-in voting is essential for Americans' health. She noted Trump's family members, including Donald Trump Jr., advocated mail-in voting for a special election earlier this year in California. Trump said people should mail-in vote in Florida, but not in Nevada. It's a really weird coincidence there. His campaign is actually suing Nevada for putting in place a new mail-in voting law, which is something he can't sue about, so he'll definitely lose that one. And Trump recently appointed a new postmaster general, which I think I talked about in my last video. And he's been doing a really shitty job. He seems to be doing a clear house where he got rid of many USPS executives, including 2 top executives, because Trump is actively trying to rig the election because he knows he's going to lose. Um, by the way, Joe Biden, I think, should announce his vice president candidate this week, I think he said. It's long overdue, in my opinion, but it really, hopefully, will come out pretty soon. The right-wing media is focusing on an imaginary controversy, suggesting both Joe Biden won't debate Trump, but Biden is very willing to debate Trump, and the Biden campaign already agreed to 3 debates with Donald Trump. Kanye West filed in Wisconsin to run as an independent candidate with the help of Trump. Alan Lichtman developed 13 keys to predict presidential elections, and it was with a Russian counterpart, which I don't like, but whatever, it's a good method actually. I saw off of this video, and he was actually been right for decades on predicting presidential elections. He correctly predicted that Trump would win in 2016 when no one else would, and he also predicted somehow that he'd get impeached. He also predicts that Trump will lose the 2020 election, which is awesome. The top U.S. intelligence official said that China wants Trump defeated and Russia is sabotaging Biden. That's weird. So Trump is hard on China, so China wouldn't want him to win. But Russia is really trying to take down Biden, so Trump would win. I wonder why Russia is helping Trump so much. It's just so weird. It's such a weird coincidence how Russia is always taking down democracy but helping Trump. I can't. If you guys could help me figure it out. False signatures leave Kanye West at risk of not making Wisconsin ballot. He failed to qualify in Illinois. Thank God no Illinoisans can be stupid enough to vote for him now. Not that many would, probably, but, now I know my state, no one in my state can vote for him. Since the Census Bureau will finish its count early, after asking for an extension because of COVID-19, flawed census could give Republicans more seats by not counting everyone, which is horrible. And then another major development that happened this past week, it happened in Lebanon. You may have heard about this because I'm a little late covering it, but there was massive damage that was reported in Beirut, Lebanon. There were 2 large explosions that happened. Lebanon's health minister said at least 135 people were killed. 5,000 at least were injured in the explosions. These numbers may be low, could be a lot higher. Thousands became homeless pretty instantly. Trump claimed the Lebanon explosion as an attack, which was a huge mistake because he had no evidence of that. 3 U.S. Defense Department officials told CNN there was no indication of an attack. An official said the explosion was likely powered by confiscated explosive materials stored at the city's port, because for some reason they wanted to put a bunch of explosive materials in the same room. I think people are calling it an accident. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but that's what an official said, so I'm going to go with that. That an explosion, and it likely maybe set off itself. Not exactly sure on that part. But yeah, it was a scary sight to see. I saw the video, and I hope that a lot of people are safe there and have recovered from this horrible tragedy that happened in Lebanon. The city of Beirut and Lebanon as a country have been going through struggles already, so this obviously wasn't helpful. If you look at the before and after pictures, it's really horrible to see the change, obviously. And along with this topic, it was actually recently the 75th anniversary since the atomic bomb was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So it helps us to realize, if we look back at history, how dropping nuclear bombs definitely takes its toll. Um, and we have to realize that we don't want to do that again, unless we are provoked to, which should only come in the most extreme circumstances. French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Beirut, Lebanon. He was the first leader to do so, which I think was a very smart idea. And I wish our president did the same, but maybe I didn't. Anti-government protests broke out over Beirut explosion in Lebanon because things were already bad there, and with that, they really effed up. The port was Lebanon's lifeline to the world. 80% of the country's grain went through that port. So thoughts and prayers definitely go to Lebanon and the city of Beirut. Hopefully that city will be able to recover and the world will be able to help it do so. Um, yeah, the Indianapolis 500 is closed to fans. Murder hornets could spread across the U.S. and establish permanent presence, experts said, which I was totally happy to hear. A tornado warning was sent to New York and New Jersey in the beginning of August because Hurricane Isaias made landfall August 3rd on the border of South and North Carolina as a Category 1 storm with max winds of 75 miles per hour. And then Hurricane Isaias brought tornadoes and heavy rain that killed 5 people. The former hurricane went into southeastern Canada. Also, I forget exactly what it was called, but it was a huge tornado warning that was going through. First, I think it went into the Dakotas, and then yesterday morning it went from Iowa, and then today, or later yesterday, it went through the Midwest and where I live in Illinois toward Indiana. And it was very scary because it wasn't a tornado, but it was this huge tornado warning with winds of up to 100 miles an hour. It moved very quickly, thankfully, because if it were to stay longer, it would have done more damage. But I heard that it did a good amount of damage, and I hope that no one lost their lives over the tornado warning and huge winds and rainfall that came with it. But I'm not exactly sure if I didn't hear about what happened afterwards. I just, you know, went through it yesterday. Um, Odell Beckham Jr. said the NFL should cancel the season. The owners, quote unquote, he said, don't see us as human. I mean, I kind of understand where he's coming from. I myself am very worried that the NFL is going to flop because even though there's a lot of hype about the NFL starting, I don't think the NFL is doing nearly enough to succeed, especially with the expectations it has. I don't know. There's a lot of contact with football, and you know, they're not in a bubble. That's a big thing that the NBA and the NHL did a very good job in bubbles, but the NBA is not. The MLB is not in a bubble, and they're having a lot of problems. So I can see that come up in baseball, and I feel like the NFL is going to start. Like they already have a start date and all of that, but I just don't think they're going to get through a season because I think there's going to be a lot of prominent athletes that might get sick, and that's going to stop the season. So I don't think the season's going to make it, sadly. Hopefully they prove me wrong, but Lord and Taylor brought Men's Warehouse down by owning them. Trump signed an executive order banning TikTok and WeChat. The order would take place in 45 days, so that's about a little less than 40 days now. TikTok threatened legal action. Primaries were held in Arizona, Kansas, Michigan, Missouri, and Washington. Missouri voters decided whether to expand Medicaid Obamacare which could provide health insurance to over 400,000 people, and it would be the sixth Republican state to do so since Trump took office. Also, Trump tried to say, like, our new healthcare, healthcare would now cover pre-existing conditions, even though Obamacare already covered that. So that was a good try, I guess. A Marine veteran kneeled outside the Capitol for 9 hours to protest racial injustice. Pelosi Schumer said the White House declined a $2 trillion coronavirus deal. Yes, sadly, the Republicans and Democrats still have not come to an agreement to offer coronavirus payments for the coronavirus. I guess just like unemployment benefits, I'm trying to say. Before it was, I think, $600 a week, and then they couldn't agree on extending it, so it's still not continuing. Trump said he was going to give executive orders if Congress couldn't get it working, which would help the Republicans probably, like the Republican side more. But I don't. I think people were questioning the legality of it, so still have no idea about what's going to happen with that. Uh, Dutch Bank turned over 8 years of Trump's personal and corporate tax returns in response to New York District Attorney's subpoena, which was huge. Trump falsely said recently that the 1917 pandemic ended World War II. World War One was around 1917, like happening, but World War II happened 20 years later, so he was nowhere near with that. And it was also the wrong year with influenza. It wasn't 1917, so it's just crazy that he, was so wrong with history. It blows the mind. All right, that's all. If you guys liked and subscribed, I hope you enjoyed. Um, and I'll see you on the next video. Stay safe out there, and have a good one.